So I come to work in a fighter pilot squadron. And for a young physiologist, again, I can habla their language. I flew in their back seats. I can, so I wasn't I felt very comfortable. And up came the word crew resource management and operational risk assessment. Those now seem like common words. At the time, Delta and some surgical teams in Sweden had started the idea. And Tony Kern was a formative guy in my life because he helped steer me when we were working together, both at AATC and the Air Force Academy, on building this concept of crew resource management, the ideas of effective communication and team dynamics and how, halo effect and deference to authority and, airmanship syndrome, the big watch syndrome, like Bud Holland crashing the B-52, guys that felt they could exceed the rules and were allowed to do it. So I had to write a full syllabus for the entire fast jet community, both at all the 19th Air Force units and the T-38 IPs, and convince a very tough crowd that thinks all that shit's kumbaya when you talk about group effectiveness, dynamics under high performance, high stress situations, effective communication, risk assessment, and so I started going out and interviewing. And so I'd go to Luke, I'd go to Cannon, I'd go to Tyndall, I'd go to Kirtland, and I flew my ass off with all those aircrafts, MC-130s, Pablos CB-22s. At the time, those two test beds, flew at Luke, flew at Tyndall, and understood those mission sets. And then I started building scenarios. For some were active, real scenarios that happened at night, almost having a midair, at the end of a 10-hour night sortie and some Blackhawks doing AR with guys that had been doing infill exfills, and the PJs go, we need some more practice. And the guy that's flying the jet is on a check ride, and he said, if your DC power runs low, call it off. And they pressed in the mission. We almost had a midair. I wrote up a scenario. And so I started writing case study focused scenarios and then developed a syllabus. And then we did a facilitator course and brought in like 55, 60 rated and non-rated physiologists and hand trained them myself, wrote the books, wrote the syllabus, taught them the case studies, got through the JAG so we could have some civilian contractors get access to these unique mishaps that had been declassified. So I had to do the legal stuff to get these case studies so it could be distributed properly to an entire audience of instructors that then can give it to operators. And at the time, we used to have this high performance team training we used to do. We called it whip shit. Colonel Green had out of ACC with Pete Dimitri and Vanderbeek. The idea of how do you teach operators, especially in fast jets, how to assess an incident and then reassess after the incident and make sure you change the behavior that led to that risky or near incident. And to get fighter pilots to open up and talk is a difficult thing, much less. But when you get them to talk about what they did and when they almost killed themselves, they're always willing to talk. And so that's what we did.